The True Believer, Thoughts on the Nature of Mass Movement by Eric Hoffer. Section 51. A deprecating attitude toward the present fosters a capacity for prognostication. The well-adjusted make poor prophets. On the other hand, those who are at war with the present have an eye for the seeds of change and the potentialities of small beginnings. A pleasant existence blinds us to the possibilities of drastic change. We cling to what we call our common sense, our practical point of view. Actually, these are but names for an all-absorbing familiarity with things as they are. The tangibility of a pleasant and secure existence is such that it makes other realities, however imminent, seem vague and visionary. Thus, it happens that when the times become unhinged, it is the practical people who are caught unaware and are made to look like visionaries who cling to things that do not exist. On the other hand, those who reject the present and fix their eyes and hearts on things to come have a faculty for detecting the embryo of future danger or advantage in the ripeness of their times. Hence, the frustrated individual and the true believer make better prognosticators than those who have reason to want the preservation of the status quo. It is often the fanatics and not always the delicate spirits that are found grasping the right thread of the solutions required by the future. Section 52. It is of interest to compare here the attitudes toward present, future, and past shown by the conservative, the liberal, the skeptic, the radical, and the reactionary. The conservative doubts that the present can be bettered, and he tries to shape the future in the image of the present. He goes to the past for reassurance about the present. Quote, I wanted the sense of continuity, the assurance that our contemporary blunders were endemic in human nature, that our new fads were very ancient heresies, that beloved things which were threatened had rocked not less heavily in the past. End quote. How indeed, like the skeptic, is the conservative. Quote, Is there anything whereof it may be said, See, this is new, it hath already been of old time, which was before us? End quote. To the skeptic, the present is the sum of all that has been and shall be. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. End quote. The liberal sees the present as the legitimate offspring of the past, and as constantly growing and developing toward an improved future. To damage the present is to maim the future. All three, then, cherish the present, and, as one would expect, they do not take willingly to the idea of self-sacrifice. Their attitude toward self-sacrifice is best expressed by the skeptic. Quote, For a living dog is better than a dead lion, for the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Neither have they done any more a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. End quote. The radical and the reactionary loathe the present. They see it as an aberration and a deformity. Both are ready to proceed ruthlessly and recklessly with the present, and both are hospitable to the idea of self-sacrifice. Wherein do they differ? Primarily in their view of the malleability of man's nature. The radical has a passionate faith in the infinite perfectibility of human nature. He believes that by changing man's environment and by perfecting a technique of soul forming, a society can be wrought that is wholly new and unprecedented. The reactionary does not believe that man has unfathomed potentialities for good in him. If a stable and healthy society is to be established, it must be patterned after the proven models of the past. He sees the future as a glorious restoration rather than an unprecedented innovation. In reality, the boundary line between radical and reactionary is not always distinct. The reactionary manifests radicalism when he comes to recreate his ideal past. His image of the past is based less on what it actually was than on what he wants the future to be. He innovates more than he reconstructs. A somewhat similar shift occurs in the case of the radical. When he goes about building his new world, he feels the need for practical guidance, and since he has rejected and destroyed the present, he is compelled to link the new world with some point in the past. If he has to employ violence in shaping the new, his view of man's nature darkens and approaches closer to that of the reactionary. The blending of the reactionary and the radical is particularly evident in those engaged in a nationalist revival. The followers of Gandhi in India and the Zionists in Palestine would revive a glorified past and simultaneously create an unprecedented utopia. The prophets, too, were a blend of the reactionary and the radical. They preached a return to the ancient faith and also envisaged a new world and a new life. 53. That the deprecating attitude of a mass movement toward the present seconds the inclinations of the frustrated is obvious. What surprises one when listening to the frustrated as they decry the present and all its works is the enormous joy they derive from doing so. Such delight cannot come from the mere venting of a grievance. There must be something more, and there is. By expatiating upon the incurable baseness and vileness of the times, the frustrated soften their feeling of failure and isolation. It is as if they said, quote, "Not only our blemished selves, but the lives of all our contemporaries, even the most happy and successful, are worthless and wasted." End quote. Thus, by deprecating the present, they acquire a vague sense of equality. The means also a mass movement uses to make the present unpalatable strike a responsive chord in the frustrated. The self-mastery needed in overcoming their appetites give them an illusion of strength. They feel that in mastering themselves, they have mastered the world. The mass movement's advocacy of the impracticable and impossible also agrees with their taste. Those who fail in everyday affairs show a tendency to reach out for the impossible. It is a device to camouflage their shortcomings. For when we fail in attempting the possible, the blame is solely ours. But when we fail in attempting the impossible, we are justified in attributing it to the magnitude of the task. There is less risk in being discredited when trying the impossible than when trying the possible. It is thus that failure in everyday affairs often breeds an extravagant audacity. One gains the impression that the frustrated derive as much satisfaction, if not more, from the means a mass movement uses as from the ends it advocates. The delight of the frustrated in chaos and in the downfall of the fortunate and prosperous does not spring from an ecstatic awareness that they are clearing the ground for the heavenly city. In their fanatical cry of all or nothing at all, the second alternative echoes perhaps a more ardent wish than the first.